All right, let's take a look at the Factoring Trinomial II. And now we are going to consider a little bit more interesting situation. We have a trinomial ax squared plus bx plus c. But the a is not equals to 1. For example, I want to factor 6x squared plus x minus 12. So how can I do that? Well, maybe kind of like the previous one and the last two problem. Hey, maybe I can factor out something. If I take a look at all these three terms, 6x squared, x, and 12, it's nothing in common. So I cannot factor out the 6 and make it becomes a different kind of trinomial. So how can we do that? Well, let's take a look at a simple example first. We are going to do that by grouping. Now, so when the question telling you to do so, you have to do that by grouping. It's not that I just randomly take a wild guess, I know the answer, I put it down. You have to follow the instruction and do that by grouping. So let's see how that works. We are going to take a look at the factor of 2 times 6. Not just 6 this time. I will have 2 times 6. I will have the A and the C times together. So that will give you 12. Now indeed, this particular method, factor by grouping, sometimes we refer this to AC method. We have the A times the C to be considered. So we have to take a look at the factor of 2 times 6, which is 12. So just like before, if you practice enough, you can quickly list out all the possible pair. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and that's it. And now, which pair will add up to the middle terms? First pair, 1 and 12. Now, but I cannot read the answer right away. Indeed, this is what we are going to do. We are going to break up the middle terms. So make it equals, they are equal. We break up the 13x by using 1 and 12. So the first term stay the same. 2x squared plus the 13x, I make it becomes x plus 12x plus the last term, which is 6. So the trinomial will becomes a 4 terms polynomial. And now we have 4 terms. Hey, this is like what we engaged in the previous section. We can do that by grouping maybe. So I am going to group the first 2 terms together. Plus, I'm going to group the last 2 terms together. And remember the second group, the parenthesis will begin after the plus. And now from the first group, I can factor out the x. So I have x times 2x plus 1 plus, in the second group, I have 6 as the common factor. So I factor out the 6. I have 2x plus 1 left. So now, 2 terms. And each term has 2x plus 1. So I can further factor out the 2x plus 1. So that would give me 2x plus 1 times x plus 6. So far so good, right? And that is what we call the factor by grouping or factor by AC method. we will first consider the factor of A times C, and then list out all the possible pairs times together is equal to A times C, and then using the right pair to break up the middle terms. So 3 terms becomes 4 terms, and then afterward we do that by grouping. Let's take a look at another example. We want to factor 3x squared plus 11x plus 6 by grouping. So once again, we have no choice because the question telling you do it by grouping. So I'm going to consider the factor of 3 times 6, which is 18. So I got 1 times 18, and then 2 times 9. How about 3? 3 times 6. How about 4? How about 5? How about 6? Yes, but we already have 6. So we're done. That's good. I list out all the possible pairs. Which pair will add up to the middle terms, 11? The second pair, 2 and 9. So now I'm going to use that 2 and 9 to break up the middle terms. So that would becomes 3x squared plus 2x plus 9x plus 6. The first term and the last term stay the same. We only break up the middle terms. And now we have 4 terms, and we do it by grouping. So we group the first 2 terms together, plus, and then we group the last 2 terms together. And then from the first group, you factor out the x, and then you got x times 3x plus 2 plus 9x plus 6. They do have something in common. What do they have in common? 3. So I factor out the 3. So I have 3x plus 2 left. Now again, not because the first group has 3x plus 2. Then the second one must be like that. Don't do it this way. Right? You really need to factor out the second group and see what happens. And finally, we have 3x plus 2 as the common factor. So we factor out this, and we got the 3x plus 2 times x plus 3. So far, so good. Let's see another one. I want to factor 4x squared plus 11x minus 3 by grouping. So I'm going to take a look at the A times C. The factor of 4 times negative 3. So that would give you negative 12. So I got the 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. But one of them must be negative this time. So I'm looking for the difference. Which pair will have the difference of 11? The first pair will have the difference of 11. I need to give the negative to which one? So that the sum would be equal to positive 11. Give it to 1. So now I will break up the middle terms. First term and the last term stay the same, And the 11x, it will becomes minus x plus 12x and minus 3 like this. So far so good, right? And so I'm going to group the first two terms together, and then plus I'm going to group the last two terms together. From the first group, x is the common factor. Factor the x, I have x times 4x minus 1 plus, from the second group, 3 is in common. So I factor out the 3, so I have 4x minus 1. So that would give you 4x minus 1 times x plus 3. So far so good, right? Let's see another one. And this time we have 2 minus. Factor the 2x squared minus 9x minus 5 by AC method. What is AC method? That's the same as the grouping. It's what we are doing, right? Just have a different name. So I'm going to take a look at the factor of 2 times negative 5, so which is negative 10. Okay. So be sure to consider the sign also. Now you got the negative 10. So I have 1 times 10, 2 times 5, 3, no good, 4, no good, 5, I already have, so we only have 2 pairs. But it's a negative 10, so that means I need to give, I'm looking for a difference. The difference of which pairs will give you 9 or negative 9? The first pair. Now, finally, I need to determine negative belongs to what? 1 or 10? So that the sum would becomes negative 9. 1 or 10? 10. Okay. Now, if I give it to the 1, when I add them together, would be positive 9. So now, I am going to break up the middle terms. So while the first term and the last term stay the same. So I have the 2x squared plus x minus 10x minus 5. And let's group the first two terms together. So I have a parenthesis 2x squared plus x minus open parenthesis. Now remember the parenthesis, second parenthesis, always come after the operator. Don't put it before that. 10x minus 5. So far so good. Everybody happy? Shall we continue? Is something wrong? What's wrong over here? The third term is minus. So when we group the last two terms together, what happened? We need to change sign. Now don't change sign until the next step and find out that, oh, they are not matched, so I just change the sign and make it possible. That's not right. From the first group, I have x times 2x plus 1. From the second group, I can factor out the 5. So I have 5 times 2x plus 1. Finally, two terms. And in these two terms, I have 2x plus 1 as the common factor. So I have this. Okay. Let's see another one. I want to factor 4x squared minus 13x plus 9 by the AC method. So let's take a look at the A times C. I'm looking for the factor of 4 times 9. This will give me 36. Well, 36 looks like a big number. What can go into 36? What is the first one? 1 times 36. We don't even need to think. 1 always begins with 1. 1 times anything. Right? And then 2. Can 2 go into 36? Yes. 2 times. 2 times what? 18. Okay? If you're not sure, have 36 divided by 2 in your dancing shoe. How about 3? Can 3 go into 36? Yes. 3 times what? 3 times 12. Again, you can ask your dancing shoe for help. 36 divided by 3, 36 divided by 4, 36 divided by 5, and you can tell and make sure you got all the right pair, all the pairs. 4 can go into 36. 4 times 9. How about 5? How about 6? 6 times 6. Do I need to move on? No, I already reached the other side, right? So that's it. And the middle term is a negative. So that means I need to give the negative to every single one and then add them up together. Which pair would be the right pair? 4 and 9. And remember, we give the negative to every single one. So negative 4 and negative 9. Now, I am going to break up the negative 13x. So I make it becomes minus 4x minus 9x plus 9. And then continue by grouping. So I group the first two pairs together, minus, and then open parenthesis, 9x. 9x what? Minus 9. Because the third term is minus, we need to change sign. From the first group, I have 4x factor O, so I got x minus 1 minus 9x minus 9. I got the 9 factor O. I have 9 times x minus 1. So finally, I got the x minus 1 times 4x minus 9. So far so good, right? Okay. Now be sure to show work. That will help you understand the subject matter much better. Don't just take a wild guess. I am going to consider the factor of 8 times 3. That give me 24. Can we list out the factor of 24? 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 5, no good. 6, we already have. So that's it. Isn't that nice? Right? Negative is the middle terms. So we have to consider to give the negative to every single one. And add them up together. Which pairs will give you negative 11? Which pair? 3 and 8. Of course, we give the negative to both of them. So it's a negative 3 and negative 8. Now, let's continue. Break up the middle terms. Make it becomes minus 3x minus ax plus 3. And then we group the first two terms together. Minus. And then group the last two terms together. But when I group the last two terms together, something I have to do. What do I need to do? I have to change the sign because the third term is minus. From the first group, I can factor out the x. So I have x times ax minus 3 minus another group, ax minus 3. I cannot do anything, so just leave it as it is. And now I see that both terms had ax minus 3. So I'm going to factor out the ax minus 3. What is the leftover? X minus 1. So that becomes ax minus 3 times x minus 1. All right, let's try out this. Factor 30x squared plus 25x plus 3 by grouping. So what do I need to consider? I need to take a look at the factor of what? 30 times 3. What is that? What is 30 times 3? 90. Can you try that out? Quickly have a little bit practice. List out all the possible pairs. Times together would be 90. Okay. I catch you in 30 seconds. All right, you should have that done. Right. Now have a little bit practice. It will be fast for you to quickly list out all the possible pair. Start with 1. 1 times 90. You don't even need to think. 1 can go into anything. 2 times 45. How about 3? 3 times 30. Of course, this is how we get 90 at the beginning. How about 4? Can 4 go into 90? No. Right? You can double check with the dancing shoe. 90 divided by 4. See if you get a whole number or decimal number. 5. Can 5 go into 90? 18. How about 6? 6 times 15. How about 7? How about 8? How about 9? 9 times 10. Do I need to move on? No, because I reached 10 already. You might take a look at the other side. 10. So that's it. And now my goal is to find a right pair. Add up to 25. Which pair will add up to 25? None of them. You really need to try that out. And now, when you list out all the possible pair, and then you see that no pairs add up to 25. Now you need to give the reason, not just write down this and then you know what it means. Tell people no pairs can add up to 25. So what is our conclusion? Therefore, S is prime. Or a little bit more would be 30x squared plus 25x plus 3 is prime. Now when you come to the trinomial like this, it's much more important for you to show work to justify yourself. Don't just randomly take a wild guess another method called the trial and error. I like to call that wild guess. You just pick some number and see what happens. And the sad thing is very often students just try out maybe 2 or 3 numbers, 2 pairs, and then doesn't work or then throw the towel. It must be prime. No. List out all the possible ones. It's not difficult. We start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can quickly list them out and then check it out and see which pair is the possible pair. If really none of them, then you can confidently, boldly justify the expression is prime. Let's try out one more. Factor 12x squared minus 14x minus 10 by grouping. So we are going to consider the factor of what? 12 times negative 10? 120, negative 120. Is that right? You could, but then you will make your life difficult. Take a look at all these 3 terms. Do they have something in common? Yes, they have 2 in common. Let's factor out the 2 first. Now remember, factor out the common factor is the very first thing we should consider. Factor out the 2, and now, yes, I continue to do that by grouping. So I'm going to consider the factor of 6 times negative 5, which is negative 30. Now, so if we take a look at this, consider negative 30 or negative 120. Which one do you like to deal with? Negative 30, of course, is much better. Right? 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 5 times 6. That's it. One of the factor must be negative. So which one would that be? I'm looking for the difference. The difference is negative 7 or 7. Right? Remember, we are focusing on whatever inside the parenthesis now, not looking for the negative 14. So which pair is the right pair? 3 and 10. And I need to give the negative to which one? To the 10. So that the sum would be negative 7. Okay? So now I continue to break this up. So I have 2 times parenthesis 6x squared plus 3x minus 10x minus 5. And then we can continue to do that by grouping. So I have 2, and let me use a bracket, and then group the first 2 terms together, minus, and then I group the last 2 terms together, but don't forget to change sign because the third term is minus. And then from the first group, I can factor out the 3x. So I have 3x times 2x plus 1 minus, from the second group, I have 5. So factor out the 5. I have 5 times 2x plus 1, like this. And again, inside the bracket, I have 2 terms. And both of these 2 terms have a common factor of 2x plus 1. So I'm going to factor out the 2x plus 1 times 3x minus 5. Now, suppose we still have a bracket around, after the 2, and have a bracket around the products of those two binomial. But we can see that the bracket now becomes insignificant. So I can simply remove that bracket. So finally, it would become 2 times 2x plus 1 times 3x minus 5.